GOP tax bill. There's the Senate floor right there. The House will have to revote tomorrow over some technical issues, but the bill is still expected to land on the president's desk tomorrow, and of course he's going to sign it, a major accomplishment, but a bill that is wildly unpopular with the American people, and with the midterms less than a year away, that could be a big problem for the president, President Trump and his party. Let's discuss now. Mark Preston, CNN senior political analyst, April Ryan, CNN's political analyst as well. So I invited two guests on for a conversation, and a fight broke out in the last block. So let's see if we can work this all out. Good evening to both of you. This revote in the House, it may not impact the outcome of the bill, but does it speak to how hastily it was put together, Mark Preston?
Yeah, no question. Look, we haven't had a meaningful tax reform in 30 years in the Congress, and there's a reason. It is incredibly complicated. It's not something that can be done overnight. But basically what we saw with the Republican-led Congress and President Trump is that from start to finish was about 7 weeks. Now, people wonder, why did this need to get done so quickly? For a couple of reasons, but the most important reason is that the Republican Party needed a major legislative win. President Trump needed a major legislative win in the calendar year of 2017 so that it didn't go down in the history books of him making a lot of promises at the outset of his administration and not be able to fulfill them. In this case, he has fulfilled one.
That is what this is all about. Let's just all be honest about it. There's no two ways about it. The president needed a win in 2017. This is the only time they could get it done. They pushed it through, even though the American people don't like it. That's the bottom line. April, as we have mentioned here, and let's show, the polls show 55% of the people oppose this plan. It also shows 66% say the bill benefits the wealthy more than the middle class. That view is supported by two nonpartisan government analysis, I should say. How is passing something that is overwhelmingly unpopular with the American people good politics for this White House?
You know, the optics are not pretty. It's a win at what cost? Like Mark said, you know, within 7 weeks. And we saw what happened prior to with other bills, you know, trying to repeal and replace ACA. It just didn't cut the muster because it was costly. At what cost? That's the issue. And when you look at this, you know, the individual tax breaks are going to only be in effect until 2025. Those are the issues that people are not talking about. And there is also a fear factor. You know, the corporations have permanent tax cuts, but individuals don't. And the fear factor is there. This is one of the reasons why it's so unpopular, because of the past history within this last year with this administration, the Republican Party ramming through things that leave regular people out, that hurt the least of these. And the fear is that at what cost? You know, what's the pay for? You know, you hear Elizabeth Warren screaming, you know, this is government for sale at the cost of $1.5 trillion benefiting corporations. But the least of these, the people, the American people, trickle-down economics has shown it has not worked in the past, where companies are given these tax breaks and it goes to luxury items versus going to the worker in that company. So the devil's in the details. And Don, I just remember listening to history, and remember at the time when George H.W. Bush said, "Read my lips, no new taxes." We have to see what happens here.
Mark, listen, and it's not just about Democrats. I mean, she had mentioned Elizabeth Warren, and Stephen Moore was on in the last segment saying, you know, he doesn't understand why liberals don't like it. It's not just liberals. There are Republicans who are not happy with this as well. And of course, they had to wrangle back and forth, many of them, to get what they wanted into this bill, and it was the minimum of what they wanted. There were, I think, there were 12 Republicans who voted no on this bill in the House. 11 of them are from California, New York, New Jersey. They represent mostly suburban districts that Democrats are targeting in 2018. How big of a factor could this be, you think, for the midterms?
Well, a couple of things. One is, of the 12 people, you're right, 11 of them come from states that Hillary Clinton won in the last election. And the reason why they voted against it, these 11 members, is because it's going to hurt their constituents. And we could go back and forth about the definition of middle class, but the definition of middle class is different depending on the geographic region that you live in. You live in New York City, your cost of living is going to be much higher, your pay is going to be higher. So that's why we saw those 11 vote against it. And the 12th, Walter Jones of North Carolina, didn't agree with the ballooning deficit. But directly to your question, will this have an impact on the elections? Absolutely. There's no question about it. And if you talk to Republicans today, they would privately say, listen, we know the polls aren't good today, but we're hoping that this will help boost the economy as we go into 2018. But right now, the wind is at the Democrats' back right now, specifically in the House of Representatives. They only need 25 seats now to take over that chamber, Don, and this will become an issue amongst probably many other issues in 2018.
Yeah, and as you can see, we're looking at live pictures now from the Senate floor. They're expected to vote on this tax bill at any moment now. The House voted on it today. They got to redo it because of some technical issues, but it is expected to go through. It should be at the president's desk by the end of the week, and of course he's expected to sign it April. Despite the tax bill win, here's what our new poll finds: that the president's approval rating sinking to a new low of 35%. Here's how Press Secretary Sarah Sanders explained those numbers.
While the president and this administration has been very focused on how we can better help the American people, I think oftentimes the media is focused on other things, certainly not talking about the growing economy, certainly not talking about the crushing of ISIS, not talking about the creation of jobs. And if people were focused a lot more on those things in the media, I think that his numbers would be a lot higher.
As someone who covers the White House every day, how do you respond to the charge that this is the media's fault? It's always the media's fault.
It is. We are the bad guys in this. But you have to remember, polls are taken by the American public who feels or sees the tweets, who watches the press briefings, who listens to the president. And you have to remember, a poll is a straw poll view of that moment in time. And really, for the last couple of weeks, it's been a straw poll view between 32 and 35%, depending upon the polling group. But at the same time, I mean, if we look at the poll numbers at this time for other presidents, this president is at the lowest mark of any other president. And it's not the media. We are reporting on what he is doing. You have to remember, fact versus opinion. You have a lot of people who are speaking opinion, but when there is fact that this president is in the midst of possibly going to war with North Korea. You have to think about the fact that, yes, the economy is going well, but is that about the residue that's left from the Obama administration? There's so many different factors. You know, they can paint a picture or spin it one way, but the facts are facts, no matter how they bear out or how you say it looks. Facts are facts.
Thank you both. I appreciate